that we have 100% financing products to make affordable home loans to first-time home buyers. We did about 45 loans in Windham County last year. 6% of all Vermont sales, housing sales, had some form of a rural development enhancement or product last year in the state of Vermont. So municipalities, maybe it's not we're helping you there, but we're helping you get the people that kind of work in your offices and your businesses and your community. Under the rural housing program is the community facilities program, and I'm going to come back to that last because that's where most municipalities and not-for-profits benefit from our programs. Then we go on to the rural business and cooperative service. So we talked about guarantees, really large guarantees. So we pick up where SBA leaves off. They do about 2 to 5 million, and we don't have a limit. We can go up to 25 million on projects, or greater than that. A lot of little micro grant programs under the rural business cooperative service. We have value-added producer grants, so we're helping that farmer that wants to go from a homogeneous product to a value-added. Think of milk to cheese. Think of maple syrup being bottled, things like that. We have rural business development grant programs, which is technical assistance money, such as Adam's organization would access, that benefits small and emerging businesses. Could be feasibility studies, marketing plans, analysis of floor plans, things of that nature there. It could be assisting with website development. It's really broad there. And then we have other relending programs that we can loan money or grant money to entities, not-for-profits, that in fact turn it around and relend it out, because we don't have the staff to do that. And say Adam's on course to be using one of those programs shortly, which is really exciting.
I like hearing that.
Did I say I was the acting stage director? So rural business and cooperatives, and then our rural utility service. So rural utility service ranges anywhere from broadband to telemedicine type programs. And then we have our water infrastructure and sewer infrastructure programs that we help municipalities with refurbishing wastewater treatment facilities, upgrading water systems, things like that. Wilmington's system, their wastewater treatment plant received some funding us in fiscal year 15 to be able to refurbish that whole plant down there. So there's a taste of those programs. The most important thing you have today is a telephone number and a web address. So all the things we have over 40 programs we deliver. I could not do justice to all of them in a 10-minute conversation. But I have my business cards here, you have those documents there. The most important thing is to call us, because not only will we try to invest our money, I'll spend everybody else's money at the table if I can too. So, and I got to say thank you to the delegation. Senator Leahy, Saunders, and Congressman Welch are instrumental in providing us the funds that we can go out there and, with your leadership, be able to do good projects and invest. So the municipal program that's access allowed is called our Community Facilities Program. Again, guarantees, direct loans, grants. For a municipality, we have a low interest rate, fixed term, longer term than most commercial banks, and that's why it's attractive to the municipalities versus the municipal bond bank to come to us. Plus we have a real hands-on approach. So that's for all essential services: libraries, daycares, hospitals, town halls, museums, cultural facilities, meaning like Latches Theater and arts organizations such as that. And then in some cases, rare cases, we do have some small grants that we're able to award to communities that are qualified based on income and population. It's a little tricky. Not every community is eligible for that. So some other examples of the not-for-profits that we've assisted, which would help a municipality, is the Mover, the nice building down there right across the river. Beautiful facility. We were able to, after the brownfields money went in and got the site cleaned up, they were able to come to us, access some money, and build out that project. So, real live example in the valley here. Other support services, Families First, you might know of in this region, is another organization. We assisted them with purchasing their building, so instead of renting, they could own their own facility, hopefully keep their costs in check and be able to offer the great services that they're able to offer there as well. You talk about renewable energy. We don't have anything down here yet, but we did fund in a business and industry guarantee, a pellet facility up in the Northeast Kingdom. So, all the things that we talked about, we're back there somewhere. I think years ago, Adam, you might have accessed a grant to do marketing for the Valley.
Gretchen's running that in partnership with a few other folks now.
Yep, so again, that's another one that helps the municipality to be able to do that. So, so the community facilities program is the one that the not-for-profits and the municipalities have the ability to access to be able to do infrastructure projects, if you will, in the region. But I would be remiss not to point out all the other programs we have that support a community. Think of it as a wagon wheel with, the hub and all the spokes: education, healthcare, infrastructure, housing, things like that. We have programs that most likely be able to assist. So with that, I'll wrap up, and like I said, you have my cards, you have the documents. Don't try to digest it, call us. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. So since we kind of have a small crowd here, I think we kind of just open it up. If you guys have questions, more conversation style, we don't really have to raise our hand, but so if anyone has questions, comments.
Heads are so full.
Well, I'll throw some stuff out there. First of all, I think it's great that you guys are here and recounting a lot of the good work that you've done. I wish I could hear about more projects in the Valley, but it's good that there's been some. And I think it's important, and you hear this a little bit, Adam, I know you do too from time to time, about recognizing the disparities in Vermont. And you mentioned it when you were talking about funding a project in Burlington. That doesn't play super well down here. It'd be nice to hear you talk about funding projects in Windham County, because there really are, a lot of people say 2 Vermonts, there's probably more than 2 Vermonts, but you have the Chittenden County, the northwest part of the state that really is going through a pretty good economic boom right now. You have Windham and Bennington counties, which are not doing very well and haven't been doing very well. So it'd be nice to see some of that energy and that momentum focused specifically on southern Vermont. So if you can take that back to the senator. And I know he was I don't know if you were there at the Mover building when he was there earlier this year.
I was not with him. I spoke in his place at the Mover opening.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'd seen you one of those.
Yeah,
I was at both of them. And that's a great facility, and that's a perfect example of things that would be nice to see more of down here.
Absolutely.
But it's like Max said, you have to have that leadership, to have the vision, to see it first. Gretchen's out there working, and people in Dover working. If you can encourage some of that stuff, that would be great. So for what that's worth, I'll put my 2 cents in.
Great, yeah, thank you. I think, one of the things that we've started to focus on is identifying the projects that are possible, and how do we bring those funds. So in the last 3 years, federal dollars that these projects are able to attract. So if you have a good project, the money is there. For just in the last 3 years, the projects that we've worked on, that none of this came to us, it went to the project. It's over $15 million in federal incentives and funding, which is then in turn leveraged $55 million in private equity and borrowing to do those projects, which has created over 700 jobs, overwhelming majority of which are living wage and higher, all of which have benefits. So when there's a project, the funding can come from all these resources and others. And so what we hope to do as the local regional development corporation is, through the work of what RT's doing, is going out and just starting to try to create some churn and some activity with startups, is get more of those small businesses going, and start to, get some air going and really try to breathe life into them.
Yeah, it'd be great to see more of that. And, you mentioned the 2007 and the genesis of SeVEDs and the Mullen report and all that stuff. And here we are 10 years later, and a lot of those things still haven't happened.
Yeah.
And how do we move that? How do we keep that? I go back and look at that every 3 or 4 years, and I think there's still a lot of fresh ideas in here that aren't being acted on. How do we get leadership to do that?
Yeah, and I think you just hit it. It's the leadership, and it's the local ownership and the champion, and it's, I think all of our jobs to make sure the resources and the support are there, and the encouragement, and then just create the environment where that's possible. But in the end, you do need that, if it's a business, you need the person willing to risk their own capital.
Yeah.
If it's a community thing, you need the community leadership. And what we're mindful, and I know, Susan and I spoke a minute, she's a member of SeVEDs, Chris Campany, the director of the Windham Regional, is making sure that we are very regional in our efforts. And
Without a doubt.
through the zone, I think we're doing a better job, the
Yeah.
creation of the Southern Vermont Economic Development Zone. But, you know, I leave the valley and go to work and have to remind myself that, you know, the work is sometimes in the valley as well. And, you know, I think hearing reminders and opportunities, I think, is what we're eager to have.
Yeah, and we're here to coach community groups. I mean, that was kind of part of what we were doing back in the disaster recovery days. And a good example is Algiers Village. They've done some amazing work, and that's really outside of town government. And that's really where you see these community revitalizations happen, is the town is so busy, you know, taking
Yeah.
care of the roads and all the other things that is the select boards. But if there's a community group that comes together in Putney, with the Putney Historical Society, and now Algiers is kind of coaching Vernon, who's trying to do some work there. So what we're available to is to help with the coaching, help matchmaking, and also if you tell us what your project is, we can help you direct you to the right grants too. And if you look through some of these books here, when we kind of did a short-term, mid-term, and long-term plan, we had kind of attached where you could go for funding or what could you do. So that's one thing that we're available to do, is to really kind of help you think out what comes first and how to get a project together. But again, it's more of the community development work, working with the nonprofits and the communities.
Chris and maybe Max, I don't know if everyone's aware of the project that Dover's hoping to do is a fiber project. Is that $5 million roughly?
Approximately.
So, you know, Dover sort of, I don't know if it led the way, but was one of a few communities that years ago partnered and actually brought DSL to regions in partnership with Fairpoint, who wouldn't go further than they already were. And it's, from what I understand of the project, this is a similar effort, is to pay for the expansion of that. So I don't know if there's any ideas, sort of spitballing, I don't want to pin anyone on the spot here, but I know that's an important
Yeah,
project.
it's really important, and we're running into a lot of regulation on how we can bond or use our economic development money, which is, you know, an annual 1% that is substantial, but there's, honestly, we really don't want to own it. We don't want to own the fiber. We'd rather have somebody else build it and offer us reduced rates so that we can avail ourselves to it. But at this point, it looks like we're going to own a utility. And that's really not what we want to do.
And that worked really well
Burlington
in
Telecom,
Burlington.
right?
Adam, you want to own that?
Yeah, well, actually, I was speaking to Vita yesterday. They were called asking about the project and trying to understand how they might be able to loan into it and understanding the challenges. And, you know, maybe there is a different structure that could own that. You know, the Vermont Telecom, after the stimulus funds, owned 3 projects in the state of Vermont, and then folded after that, and I think is now in the Department of Public Service. But there are models out there, and he said, well, you know, the RDCs should do this, and they should own that. And I said, well, you know, I can tell you I don't know the first thing about that, but maybe there is some other entity that could play that role that would step in for the town instead of the town.
And Craftsbury is a model that may be worth talking about. They, after Vermont Council on Rural Development came in and did a community visit, they identified broadband as being an issue, and between a combination of sources, built out about 15 miles of fiber. USDA played a role in that project, but it's a different ownership entity, and they might have some ideas that aren't necessarily a municipal ownership structure. And I frankly, I threw out the Burlington example because it's literally the only infrastructure example of Vermont tapping into EDA, not to point it out as saying, look what's going on elsewhere.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, and I appreciate that. That's something that Leahy's extremely mindful of, and one of the reasons I'm physically here as opposed to being somewhere else is because he's saying you need to be in communities that are looking to get projects done and give them encouragement. So I appreciate the comment. It's not taken with hostility, but that literally is talking to our EDA guys, they say, bring us infrastructure projects in Vermont and we'll try and get them done. And that happened to be one that was ready at the opportunity, so.
And I think, like the broadband example, it's hard to get a specific path with a particular program until you do identify who is the owner and providing the service. So it's this chicken and egg thing we play sometimes, of like, yeah, we have a program, but who's gonna apply? And then depending on who applies, given the 40 different options we might have and limited in the broadband, but then we start going, wait a minute, this might be more of a business and industry want program versus a broadband program, and that's where, we'd love to be at the table and talk about it, but then it comes down to, okay, who's gonna hold this and operate it, and we get to the difficult conversations of, can you afford it, and is there grant money and things like that, so. I think I was at that meeting, was that 5 years ago, or is it?
Oh.
I was at the town hall, and I think they were looking to, like, Fairpoint actually build it out.
Well, fair
That was
point.
probably the DSL project.
Did build out the DSL project for the town of Dover. And town of Dover paid Fairpoint to do it.
That'd be about right, about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But we didn't have to bond it, so we can't just, it was just
That seemed like